It's been a long time since I was on this stage. But some things don't change. One of the things that doesn't change is the love, the compassion, the acceptance. When I began a relationship with Kevin, it was when he and his brother were pretty young, and they showed up right down the street at a place called Fathom. And that place was just full of God's power. It wasn't religious at all. This might be the most non-religious service you're ever in. In fact, if you are religious, you're very nervous today. But God's not religious. You know, religion says you've got to walk into a church and wear a suit and tie. That's okay if you do. But a relationship says you can show up as you are. There are some people here today who have no idea what I'm talking about yet. But just hang on. It's going to be okay. I've seen looks on people's faces where they go, why are you all not falling apart? Why are you not just coming unglued at the seams? Well, that's real simple. We know where he is. We're not on a journey trying to find out, oh God, what happened? We know exactly where he is, and we know that we will see him again. Now, the only way that you will never see him again is if you go to hell. Now, if you want to go to hell, it's totally your choice. And that's the love of God. When he and his brother and his family and I got to know each other, he would come down to that youth group, and I could remember we'd have music, we'd have smoke machines, and it'd be loud. You'd have drums. I remember Jake on those drums back there, and it would just be pedal to the metal as hard as you could go for 2 or 3 hours. Some of you were in this room, were down there, and you know what I'm talking about. I see a lot of your faces. And then there would be those moments when the music would stop pounding and worship would just take over, and you would see Kevin at the altar. Now, I'm not suggesting to you today that he was perfect. He wasn't. He, like me, perhaps even like you, blew it. He proved the human race was alive and well. He might have even proved a couple of times that stupid was a real word. But who among us hasn't? When we realized that when he was just in middle school, I remember this part of his life because his mom asked me one day, she said, at that point I worked for Phil Driscoll, I was his manager, and there was a guy that Phil took trumpet lessons from named Roy Roman. She said to me, could you get Roy to have lunch with my son and talk about the trumpet? And I'll never forget, I picked up Kevin at I think it was Ooltewah Middle School, I think. And I felt kind of dumb going in going, I need to get him out of class, please, but they let me have him. And I took him up to Cleveland, and he and I had lunch with Roy. And I sat there, and I was thinking about this a couple of days ago. I don't think I'll ever forget how Kevin just sat there, and he just, like a sponge, took in everything that Roy was saying. Because Roy was a teacher, and he knew something that Kevin wanted to learn. From there, I remembered as his life kind of went forward, that, I didn't see him nearly as often as I did when we were all together. But you come forward to this past Sunday. I can assure you, under no circumstances did Kevin think that Sunday night he was going to have an accident and Monday he would take his last breath here and his next breath in heaven. It probably wasn't on Kevin's to-do list. The best-selling book of all times, the Bible, sold more copies than anything else has ever sold, tells me very clearly that tomorrow is not promised to anyone. Yesterday ended last night. Tomorrow's not here, so what do we have? This gift called today. You know what today really is? Today's the tomorrow you talked about yesterday. What'd you say yesterday? I'll do it tomorrow. Don't put off until tomorrow that which you better do today. In the times in which we're living, things can change so quickly. People go, well, why do bad things happen to good people? Great question. Glad you asked. Real simple answer. Good God, bad devil. Next. There are some things that we will not know this side of eternity, and you can do one of two things. You can spend the rest of your life trying to figure it out, or you can take the life that he lived, understand where he is, and embrace the rest of your life living it with a passion that says, I'm not going to have regrets. The one thing I know about Kevin is that I just believe with all of my heart that he did not regret his life. He lived it with a passion. And today, I'm fully convinced. Now, I can't prove this out in 2 or 3 minutes, and I'm not going to take a lot longer with you. But I can promise you, Kevin is watching from the grandstands. Can you imagine what it must have been like? People go, well, if he had a choice, why would he go to heaven instead of come back here? Oh, come on. If you encounter love itself, I'm not talking about love like you think love. I'm talking about the embodiment of who love is. God is love, and love never fails. When you encounter him and you look into those eyes, you think you're going to stay here? Nope. Can you imagine what it must have been like for Naomi? I've been thinking about her the last couple of days. She was at the gate. I bet Peter has a skinned knee. I bet she knocked him down. That's my boy. Can you just see her taking him by the hand? Come on. Here's Matthew. He wrote the first book of the New Testament. Here's Abraham. He's the father of faith. Here's Zacchaeus. He really is short. I can see her doing this. And I can see Kevin almost in that glorified body going, that's great, but there's somebody else I want to see. And I'm fully convinced that when he came face to face with Jesus, that's when he sent word. It's a lot more than, I don't remember the exact words, but it's a lot more than you expected. God's always a God of increase. He always goes a little further. He always gives us more than we take. He always says more than we hear. He always loves more than we receive. Today, it's important to know where he is. There's only one way that I know to get to heaven, and that is to have a personal relationship with a real person named Jesus. And you go, I don't believe in heaven. You will. You will. I don't believe there's a real God. Prepare yourself. I don't believe in hell. Oh, bless your heart. Listen, you're going to base your life on something. You're going to believe something. It doesn't matter to me how great you are, how great you think you are, how bad you are, what it is that you did last night or last weekend. None of that matters to God. What matters to God is he sent his son, a guy named Jesus, to love you so much that no matter what you did, that love can never be erased. Probably one of the most familiar names in the Christian world is Billy Graham. I would imagine everybody here probably knows that name at least. I have a friend who worked for him, and so I got some inside information. And I saw this report, and I called my friend, and I said, did this really happen? He said, oh yeah. He was his personal assistant. He was with him all the time. Dr. Graham was invited by the fathers of Charlotte, North Carolina, to come to a luncheon in his honor. And he said, no, thank you very much, but I don't want to go, because he was suffering from Parkinson's. They said, we don't want you to give a major address. Just come on in, say 4 or 5 words, and then receive your award. He said, okay. So he showed up. They gave him the award, gave him a microphone, and he stood up and he said, today I'm reminded of Albert Einstein, who at that point was on the cover of Time magazine. Some of you, probably a lot smarter than me, know a lot about Einstein. And he said, Dr. Einstein was on this train and he was going somewhere, and the conductor came through and he was punching tickets. And he got to Einstein and he said, Dr. Einstein, your ticket, please. And he couldn't find his ticket. He looked everywhere for it. The conductor said, you know what? We know who you are. We know you bought a ticket. Don't worry about it. It's fine. And the conductor went on down the way and he looked over his shoulder and he saw Einstein on the floor of the train looking everywhere for that ticket. The conductor runs back down to Dr. Einstein and says, Dr. Einstein, I told you, we trust you. We know you bought a ticket. It's just, don't worry about it. And Einstein looked at him and said, young man, I know I bought a ticket. I know who I am. What I don't know is where I'm going. Billy Graham then said, you see the suit I have on? My family suggested that I go buy this suit because I started looking a little less than I used to in public. So I went out and I bought the suit. He said, when I bought it, I knew there would be 2 occasions that I would wear this suit. One would be the occasion of my standing here today sharing with you, receiving this award. And the second would be the day that they buried me. They would bury me in this suit. He said, when you hear of my death, Don't think about my suit. Know that I know whose I am, and I certainly know where I'm going. Pretty profound question there. Do you know whose you are? And do you know where you're going? This is as real as it gets, right here. It does not get any more real than this. And if Jesus does not come back prior to this, every single human within the sound of my voice will experience this. And there'll be somebody up here saying some kind words about your life.